Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Authority Marketing Live. I'm Melanie Hirschhorn, and I am the book marketing strategist for nonfiction and children's book authors who want to do all the things with their books: speak on stages, create a podcast, have a course, and basically have a big impact on the world. And I am so excited because today I have a wonderful guest joining us. Erin Marcus is a marketing genius, and she is in the process of writing her book. And it's called Ready Yet, and it's not. But it will be. And so we're going to talk about that and all the other amazing juicy nuggets that she can drop on us. So without further ado, welcome, Erin.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm actually excited to have a conversation about the process instead of just the end result.
So, process. Where are you in the process
Okay.
of Ready Yet?
Where am I in the process? So one of the things, I'm going to back up half a step, because one of the things I have finally realized now that I've been a business owner for several years is to not fight the instincts that I have. I am a massive action taker. I know this, right? I am a massive action taker. So I've learned, if I have an idea, even if I think it's a great idea, if I'm not taking immediate massive action on it, there's a really good idea. There's a really good reason for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That didn't come out right.
following.
There's a
Okay,
there's a journalism degree behind here. I promise. I'm actually articulate. But it doesn't always work. But I've learned to listen to that. So the idea for the book is 2 years old. And I started thinking about the book 2 years ago when I launched the podcast, some months after I launched the podcast. But I didn't do it, and I didn't take the action, And what I have now seen as I'm in this process of writing it is, thank God, because that book probably would have sucked. Right? This book is so much better. And learning how to wait when I should wait, but not wait too long, right? Not wait for no reason. People take the action. We can come up with a million reasons to get ready, to get ready to do the thing. But I've learned so much from all the 150 plus interviews I've done and my own 2 years further into my own journey. So the good news is I'm very excited about this book instead of lukewarm about the previous book. And in terms of the process, the way that I do content, I start out on note cards, brain dump on note cards, that color-coded note cards, that then get organized into some semblance of an order, that then get put into the computer, that then get filled in, not necessarily in any particular order. So the good news is the book is in into the computer. The chapters, the layout, it's all in there. And I'm now backfilling with more stories and where is this too light? Where do I need to add? Where did I ramble on and need to subtract? And how do I want to incorporate my interviewees from my podcast in here? Yeah. And I'm at that point of the process.
That's a great place to be, because you're kind of in the messy middle.
I'm in the messy middle.
But you're not at the beginning anymore.
No.
So that's good. And you know what? I love that you talked about the importance of inserting stories, because a lot of times business owners, we are just so intent on getting our strategy out there and giving like step 1, step 2, step 3. But you have to fill it out. You have to round it out with stories, because that's how humans learn, and that's how we remember, and that's how we relate to things.
Think of it this way. What do you enjoy reading more? The owner's manual to your car or a novel?
Well, that's an extreme case. But
but that, to your point, it's like reading step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there. Like, what I know from marketing is emotion is what makes things sticky.
Right.
Right. Emotion is what makes things sticky. And the only way humans relay emotion is through storytelling.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. So I love that you're bringing those in. And so let's talk about your podcast because
Sure.
it's kind of a big, well, it's kind of the foundation of it a little bit. So it's called Ready Yet.
Yes.
Who are the kinds of people that, well, first of all, who's it for? And who do you tend to interview on it?
So the podcast came about, the way it got its name is because I found myself in sales conversations at the end of the conversation asking people, well, are you ready yet? Like, are you ready to be done with the frustration, done with the overwhelm? A good 2/3 of the people I'm talking to in a sales conversation are emotional at some point because of frustration, because of trying so hard to do what they want to do and not getting there. All right, well, you ready to not stay? Why are we prolonging the suffering? So that's where the name came from, but the concept, and the very non-SEO tagline, this is not an SEO tagline for the podcast. We'll get a better one for the book, is, you'll never do what it takes until you become the person it takes to do it.
Yeah, non-SEO, but
Non-SEO.
also very, attractive
Yes.
because if
So
I came across that, and it's right, because people get stuck in the struggle. They
yes.
get stuck in the inertia of it, and they might know that they need to work with you or they need to work with me, but then they go, oh, it's
But
so much money
it's
and
so hard. It's
it's
so
so hard.
scary, and especially with what you and I both do,
Yeah.
the conscious mind wants it, and the subconscious is going, "No way. You want me to do what? You want me to be visible in what way? You want me to take what risk? You want me to put myself," like, everything in your subconscious when people take action on the things that you and I do is screaming, "Oh my god, we're all gonna die." So, that's what I learned coming out of corporate and
Yeah.
into the entrepreneurial world was I was great at taking action. I have an MBA. I know marketing. I know executive leadership. I know how to grow a business. But when it comes to your own business, none of that matters if you can't be the person to take the risks, to have the tenacity, to have the persistence, to have the resilience, as I give away my chapter names, right?
Oh,
But
but those are good. Those are great. Keep going.
and nobody was more shocked than I was that that was what was holding me back
Mm.
because I had this self-image of an achiever. I'm a smart person, I'm an achiever, I do the things because that's what I did in corporate. So nobody was more shocked than I was when I got into the entrepreneurial world and I I wasn't pulling it off in the same way.
Yep.
And so that's what those interviews are, is a mixture because my podcast really is for small business owners and entrepreneurs. It's a mix of subject matter expertise, but also those personal journey stories of what have we learned along the way? Who did you have to become? Because while we have the Gary V's and the Grant, like we have the huge people out there, it's hard for most people. You can get inspired from them,
Mhm.
by them, but it's hard to learn tactics from them and strategy from them because the world that they came up in doesn't exist anymore. It moves and changes that fast. So I like bringing someone who's 2 grades ahead, right? To a 4th grader, a 5th grader is really cool type of thing, right? Like that we can actually learn from, not just be inspired by,
Mhm.
but learn from and see, okay, if they survived it, maybe I can too.
And that's beautiful because those gurus, I think, do a lot of disservice.
In unintentionally,
Yes.
100%.
I don't think they mean to.
I totally agree. I think one of the big mistakes that we all make as someone with a marketing, MBA marketing is believing each other's marketing, right? Like I've said I used to be very involved in financial services and I would teach people how to do that. And I said, okay, here's the thing. If you want to help people grow their money, you do have to look like you have a little bit of it.
Mhm.
So none of us show up in our marketing role, at least you shouldn't. I call it woe is me marketing, like that's not good. Woe is right? Oh my
Well,
god, please, but
but then there's a vast in between
yeah,
from that and the guy lying on the Ferrari
Right.
right by the ocean.
The Insta tactics, I call
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Insta
I mean,
tactics,
you
Instagram
when you
tactics.
think about, like, influencers, for example,
Yes.
and I mean, I happen to know that there's an airplane hangar in LA where influencers can pay to go on a private jet that doesn't leave the hangar.
It never leaves,
It
right?
never leaves the hangar, but you can pay to take pictures on it to be living that life on
And look
Instagram.
right, and I mean, look at how easy that it is now with all of the technology that we carry around with us. I live in the Chicagoland area, and I've definitely, on a Saturday morning when traffic wasn't so bad, taken photos in the middle of Michigan Avenue, stop traffic, no problem. Nobody cares. I mean, here in Chicago, we're kind of casual about all that. They'll give you a minute. It's okay. They're watching, they think you're crazy. And this is now it's normal. But you can blur that background out and look. Not I don't have the skills to do this, but I know like my 14-year-old niece does. You
Mhm.
can look really impressive really easily.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. So, being authentic then,
Yes.
that's really what the crux of all this is.
100%. 100%. And in with my clients, I use they know my business, right? My clients know my business, my audience, my ecosystem knows my business, and I am very, very transparent in those containers with what I do, how I do it, why I did it, and what those results were.
Mhm.
Because I my big thing, I think though, one of the things that has served me so well is it's not just do what I tell you to do. So for my mentors, I didn't just do what they told me to do. I watched what they were doing and emulated for me, not copy, but learn from it, right?
Mhm.
And so I try to use that as an example. First one to tell them, listen, like last summer, I tried 5 different offers that sold 0 each time, but the 6th one killed it. And so one of the things I ask people all the time, are you trying or are you just starting? Because if you tell me you made 2 offers and nobody bought it, that to me isn't trying, that's starting. So and I very transparent about my ups and downs. After you solve them, by the way, don't
Not
right?
real, not IRL, not in real
Sharing
time, right?
sharing the middle of your it's one thing for me to say, "Yes, I'm in the messy middle of my
Of
book
writing your book,
process,"
but
but we
that's
don't
not.
but that's a thing we already know how to do. That's just a process.
Yeah. Well, and that's true because I feel like if you were to say like, "Oh, I'm on my 3rd offer and nobody's buying it," then they're gonna lose faith
Right.
in you and your abilities.
But
But
once you
but
solve
sharing.
that problem and you can teach it
Yeah.
and the other piece of being authentic, not just in the tactical solving, but the emotional solving. Right? It's very you will mess yourself up if you try to share going back to stories. If
Mhm.
you try to share intense stories before you have resolved the emotional attachment you have to those stories, you will run into a problem.
Oh my goodness, that is for sure. That is for sure. So, I'll tell you my story that
Yes.
I didn't realize that this was the thing that really catapulted me into marketing. And I was in the middle of a launch and I started telling the story. And I started tearing up while I was doing it. Now, I will tell you the story. I will have no emotion
Right.
attached to it at all. I had hired a social media marketer to help me with my former business, which was breastfeeding clothing. And she made a lot of promises. I paid her a lot of money. And at the end, not only did I have really nothing to show for it, I also had been treated very poorly. So there was a lot of verbal abuse and emotional abuse. And so at the end, I felt kind of like I was a shell of my former self and I had to rebuild. But I rebuilt better and
Mhm.
I began helping entrepreneurs with their marketing in an authentic.
And in a way that doesn't make people feel that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Always being supportive.
Yes.
And when I told that story the first time, I was like tears in my eyes, and I'm not a big crier at all. So that was really embarrassing for me. But it's true that when people say, "Oh, well, how can I trust you?" I go, "Well, I've
I've been there.
been there."
Right. I've been there. I have, similar things with people who say they've been burned by coaches. They've been, now, if someone tells me they've been burned by 6 coaches, I'm starting to think it ain't the
They're
coach.
the common denominator. Yeah.
What's the old what is that? You're close to my age. There was this thing back in the early 90s, those demotivational posters. I don't know if you remember in offices, they had the
Yes.
motivational posters.
Yes, I
And
do
then I'm gonna
remember those.
totally age myself here. So in the offices, they had the pretty landscape motivational posters.
Right.
When email, way before the internet, way before Instagram and Facebook, and way before MySpace and all of that, we used to get those email chains of jokes.
Yes.
You remember that? Right? That was the only way to share jokes.
My
And
mother still sends me those. But
right,
anyway,
they must still be out there. I haven't seen any just
they are for the 70 and up age.
right now it's like Reddit. Now you just go on Reddit and you can see it.
Right.
But they had a demotivational posters. And I still remember this one that said the only consistent thing in all of your failed relationships is you.
And you know what? It's
It's
true.
true.
My son always tells me how he's 8. He always talks about how he hates his teachers every year.
Every
All the
single
teachers, you're all terrible. And my husband and I, this was last night. My husband and I are like looking at him, looking at each other, and we're like,
at some point.
not the teachers, right?
But right, so the same thing, like if someone never had a good experience with a coach or hasn't learned yet what to take away that they've learned, like you said, you're past the resolution of the emotional attachment and you took the lesson of it and have created something out of it.
Absolutely. And those are the stories
Those are the stories.
that you want to put in your book, because then when you work with a book marketer like me, those are the stories that we pull out of the book
Yes.
and intertwine into all your marketing.
Yeah.
So,
That right. And I see it like there's no real new ideas out there anymore. Like everything's been
people want to
done.
believe there are.
I know, I'm trying. But what changes it is your personal interpretation of it, your personal application of it, your personal way of explaining it to somebody else. And so, absent of the personal stories, how do you build know, like, and trust with other humans? Because again, going back to my extreme, I like to use extreme examples because
I know you were like giving me I only had 2 choices. It was
but it
horror
does
manual
show
and a
you.
novel, and I was.
But a lot of times those extreme examples show us, wait
Yeah.
a minute, we're being a little
Mhm.
not ridiculous, but unreasonable or illogical, right?
Mhm.
If you take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
And absent of stories, you can't build a know, like, and trust factor because there's no way, there's no differentiation.
And on that note, you can check out all things Erin Marcus at conqueryourbusiness.com. And the book that is the forthcoming book, which is neither a novel nor a list for how to make your car work.
No. Oh God, no.
It's
Zero
called
chance.
It's called Ready Yet, and it's going to have a really super SEO friendly tagline. But
Yes. I promise.
And so you can find out all about Erin and her amazingness when you go right here at conqueryourbusiness.com. Erin Marcus, thank you so much for joining. This was such a fun chat. I really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melanie. Always great to chat with you.
Have a wonderful day.